we are expecting President Trump to appear publicly and take some questions from journalists after Israel dramatically escalated its war against Hamas, this time by striking a Hamas target inside the nation of Qatar, a U.S. ally. President Trump moments ago on Truth Social wrote, quote, "This was a decision made by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was not a decision made by me. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States, that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals," unquote. Closed caption TV footage in Doha, the city of Doha, the capital of Qatar, captured the moment of the Israeli strike, which targeted residential headquarters where members of Hamas's political bureau live. Hamas says that the strike killed 5 of its members, but did not kill the negotiating delegation or the 5 senior leaders. Qatar says the strike killed a member of the Qatari security force. Qatar, of course, has been a key mediator in ceasefire talks, maintaining direct channels with the United States and with Israel and with Hamas. Let's get right to CNN's Kristen Holmes at the White House. Kristen, what more is the White House saying about this attack?
Yeah, I've talked to a number of Trump officials, advisors to the president, who all have expressed frustration and anger at the way that this played out. And I actually want to read to you another part of that post that I think is why there is so much hostility and anger at the way that this played out. President Trump writing, "I immediately directed Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack," which he did. However, unfortunately, it was too late to stop the attack. It was so late that it was after the attack had already started. And we are told that these Trump administration officials are very unhappy with the fact that they weren't able, that Steve Witkoff wasn't able to reach out to our allies who have been helping with this process of trying to come to peace agreements, not even just between Hamas and Israel, but on other fronts internationally as well, that Witkoff was not able to tell them ahead of time that this was happening. So they're not happy with how this happened.
All right, Kristen Holmes at the White House for us. Thanks so much. Just moments ago, the Qatari prime minister described the Israeli attack as, quote, state terrorism, saying that Israel's weapons went undetected by radar and that the U.S. contacted Qatar 10 minutes after the attack. CNN's Jeremy Diamond's in Israel with how the Israeli military is defending this strike.
Explosions rock the Qatari capital. Israel has just tried to assassinate Hamas's political leadership. Brazen military strikes with far-reaching implications. Israeli officials say Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya and several other senior Hamas officials were the targets, calling them, quote, directly responsible for the October 7th massacre.
At the beginning of the war, I promised that Israel would reach those who perpetrated this horror. And today, Israel and I have kept that promise.
Hamas says Israel failed. Al-Hayya's son was killed along with 5 others, including a Qatari security official, but the group says Hamas's leaders all survived. Hamas says the strike shows Israel is trying to thwart American efforts to end the war.
I think we're going to have a deal on Gaza very soon.
Attempting to kill al-Hayya, Hamas's chief negotiator, amid a renewed American push to reach a ceasefire and hostage release deal. A senior Hamas official said al-Hayya was targeted while discussing the latest American proposal. Israel has targeted Hamas decision-makers at critical junctures before. In May, it killed Hamas's de facto leader, Mohammed Sinwar, one day after the group released an American hostage, Idan Alexander, in a gesture that was meant to spur on ceasefire talks. And now, Israel has violated the sovereignty of a key mediator in those negotiations, the Qatari government fuming, calling the Israeli attack a blatant violation of international law, and one that clearly was designed to undermine the peace negotiations in which the United States and Qatar are collaborating closely. The Israeli strike also drawing international condemnation, from Europe to the Middle East. In Israel, hostage families who have demanded a ceasefire deal in recent weeks said they felt, quote, deep concern and heavy anxiety, fearing the 20 living hostages still held in Gaza will pay the price for this latest Israeli strike. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Jerusalem.
Jeremy Diamond, thank you so much for that report. Let's discuss this incredibly momentous event with Beth Sanner, former Deputy Director of National Intelligence, who used to provide President Trump with his daily intelligence briefings. First of all, let me start by reading you something I just read in the Jerusalem Post, which was, I think a lot of people think is probably true, although I don't know it to be the case, which is the idea that Israel would not have done this without the United States knowing, just because of U.S. presence in the region, and the idea that Israel just doesn't do anything without the Israel knowing about it. Let me just read the quote. Israel would not have carried out such a dramatic strike without a green light from Washington. Its planes could not have entered Doha's airspace without U.S. forces stationed there detecting them. Is that necessarily true?
No, I don't think it is. Israel has done things and will continue to do things that they know we oppose, and they will set it up in a way that makes it very hard for the United States to say no, or they'll just go ahead and do it anyway. I mean, when I'm thinking about the quote there about the statement that Trump made, if he had just said, this isn't in America's interest, I would say, I wonder if there's something there. But because of our relationship with the Qataris and how important that is, but he said it's not in America's interest or Israel's interest. So that means he thinks, I don't think he would just throw that out there. We may find out it's all a conspiracy, but I'm kind of leaning toward the reason the U.S. military found out late is because they had late notification, and that's why the military in the Pentagon called Trump, not the Israelis.
So, big picture, why would Israel do this? What does it get them to? I mean, it is an attack in a sovereign country that is an ally of the United States, Qatar.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've told you this before. I always think about the relationship between Israel and the United States as a Venn diagram, looking back at our childhood geometry, right, where we've got like that center part where we have this overlapping part. But the Netanyahu little part of shared interests is much smaller with the United States and with Trump than the overall U.S.-Israeli relationship is. I don't think this is in our interests at all. But Netanyahu believes that only force will get Hamas to the table, and he does not want to negotiate. But I think he also is very clearly by this saying, the hostages are not my number one priority. Killing Hamas and looking strong for the next election is his priority.
So President Trump obviously saying out loud he disapproved of the location of Israel's strike inside the capital city of Qatar, Doha, that it runs counter to his objectives in the region. Before that, a top Qatari diplomat based in UC said the strike was designed to undermine peace negotiations and claimed the U.S. and Qatar are collaborating closely. Netanyahu said hours before the strike that the ceasefire deal was in Hamas's hands, that the war could end today if Hamas just accepted the deal, and then he does this.
Yeah. Well, it's always true that this could end if Hamas said yes, but in my view, you wouldn't kill the people or try to kill the people who actually are more open to negotiating and leave the only people standing, the super anti any kind of negotiation, the people who are in Gaza. So if they had been successful, then you would have had people who had said no way, no matter what. Yeah. And so I really think it's counter to getting the hostages out.
And the other question is, how much of a heads up did the U.S. have? There is always, of course, the question of maybe Israel didn't want to give the U.S. A heads up so that the U.S. could say we had no idea. But when asked today, the White House was very clear in their language. They said the Trump administration was notified by the U.S. military of an impending Israeli attack. That could just be like the military detects that these jets are coming in or whatever.
Right. Or
it's about to strike in 5 minutes.
They go to the military liaison who's sitting in Israel and say, we're in the midst of this strike. That's what's coming in. It's not hostile forces.
And as you know, you mentioned the hostages. So many family members of Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza are upset about this, as they've been upset about things Netanyahu has been doing for months. Quote, the price for the 48 hostages could be unbearable. The living hostages could be murdered at any moment, and the deceased could disappear forever. The time has come to end the war. This is a statement from the hostages and missing families. Do you think this strike makes getting back those hostages less likely?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, my heart is breaking for the hostage families right now. I'm very, very worried about it. And let's remember, a majority of Israelis want this war to end and the hostages out. That's their number one priority too. So Netanyahu, while he's got the far right people on his side, on this. I don't think this is a popular move, but it helps keep him in power.
Beth Sander, thanks so much.